This is what they were running out there.
Vice President Harris came and visited my restaurant.
Months have passed since the DNC's crushing loss to Donald Trump, and Jon Stewart is still relentlessly tearing into them.
Come on, the big movers and shakers of the Democratic Party must know her well.
She worked at McDonald's, and she greeted every person with that 1,000-watt smile and said, "How can I help you?"
Recently, he went absolutely scorched earth on the DNC, not only for backing the wrong candidate, but for the smug, out-of-touch way they tried to spin that mess to the public. If you're into raw political takedowns, hit subscribe. This storm is just beginning.
Of course, an important part of tonight was familiarizing people with the Democratic nominee's biography, a hallowed walk through the trials and tribulations that formed the ethos and spirit of the Democratic nominee.
So Stewart's first strike landed hard on the way the DNC tried to pitch Kamala Harris to the American public. She was the sitting vice president, supposedly armed with a solid record, but when it came time to show her accomplishments, her so-called biography was embarrassingly hollow.
Because up until tonight, they didn't have a lot. Thin on the anecdotes, quite frankly.
No major accomplishments, no bold leadership, just an empty resume dressed up in identity politics. And it keeps raising the same question. What was she actually doing for 4 years as vice president? She had the platform, the power, the spotlight, yet left barely a trace. So when it came time to present her to voters, the party was clueless. And this is the clumsy narrative they cobbled together.
This is what they were running out there.
Vice President Harris came and visited my restaurant.
No defining policy, no bold action, no moment of crisis met with strength or clarity, just canned speeches, cringeworthy interviews, and a disappearing act whenever the heat turned up. It felt like the role wasn't taken seriously, more symbolic than substantial, and now they want voters to believe she was ready for the highest office? Please. Stewart didn't flinch. He tore into the DNC for trying to dress up mediocrity as excellence, thinking voters would blindly go along. It was savage. It was raw, and honestly, it was way past due. Watch this.
You know, I know you only had 4 weeks to put this movie together, but come on. You gotta do better than... I was working and she walked in. I drove her in an Uber.
Now you see exactly why Kamala and the DNC went down. They couldn't point to a single real accomplishment to justify asking for our vote. Not one. And when confronted, their excuse? Laughable. They claimed they only had 4 weeks to put it all together. But let's be honest, and if there were genuine leadership moments to highlight, 4 weeks is more than enough. The real issue? They had 4 years, not 4 weeks. 4 years to build a legacy, shape a story, and earn the public's trust. Instead, they floated on good vibes and hollow slogans, hoping identity alone would do the heavy lifting. It didn't, and you'd assume party insiders could at least rattle off her achievements, right? You're in for a surprise.
Come on, the big movers and shakers of the Democratic Party must know her well.
She worked at McDonald's, and she greeted every person with that 1,000-watt smile and said, "How can I help you?"
This wasn't just disappointing, it was a masterclass in how hypocrisy and hollow performance politics can drive a party straight into the ground. The DNC wasn't under real pressure to pick a black woman as VP alongside a white male president, but in a frantic attempt to appease the loudest voices, they bypassed merit and grabbed for symbolism. Kamala Harris wasn't a seasoned powerhouse. She was largely unknown, unproven, and underwhelming. She didn't rise through grassroots energy or an ironclad record. She was chosen for the headline, not the hustle. Identity politics took center stage, and the DNC paid the price. And Jon Stewart, he carved through their delusion like a hot blade through butter.
I think you have to say that when you work at McDonald's, or really any point of service occupation. How can I help you?
Stewart is absolutely lighting up the DNC. And deservedly so. Because when you're offering something to the public, the bare minimum isn't enough. Every vendor is expected to smile, listen, and deliver what people actually want. But instead, the DNC shoved a candidate down voters' throats, one no one even asked for. Kamala Harris's vice presidency? It was like punching a clock at McDonald's and just sticking to the employee manual. No bold moves, no fresh ideas, nothing that even hinted at real leadership. She didn't break boundaries, didn't elevate the position, didn't leave a single memorable mark. Yet the DNC acted like merely showing up was enough to deserve the presidency. Come on, voters aren't fools. If you want the top job, bring more than a name. Here's yet another clip of the DNC trying to push Kamala Harris onto the public stage.
My phone rings. It's Kamala Harris. She called me.
My phone rang again, and it was Vice President Kamala Harris.
If you're lucky enough to be her friend, she calls you on her birthday.
Stewart is absolutely lighting up the DNC, and deservedly so. Because when you're offering something to the public, the bare minimum isn't enough. Every vendor is expected to smile, listen, and deliver what people actually want. But instead, the DNC shoved a candidate down voters' throats, one no one even asked for. Kamala Harris's vice presidency? It was like punching a clock at McDonald's and just sticking to the employee manual. No bold moves, no fresh ideas, nothing that even hinted at real leadership. She didn't break boundaries, didn't elevate the position, didn't leave a single memorable mark. Yet the DNC acted like merely showing up was enough to deserve the presidency. Come on, voters aren't fools. If you want the top job, bring more than a name. Here's yet another clip of the DNC trying to push Kamala Harris onto the public stage.
She calls you on her birthday? That is very
Personally, I'd chalk it up to a slip of the tongue. Maybe she misread the teleprompter or fumbled her words. But then again, with this crowd, who really knows? They'll say just about anything if it means squeezing out a few more votes. Whether it's the truth, a twist, or straight up fiction, it's all fair game in their strategy. And the line between honest mistake and calculated spin, it gets so blurry, you can't tell if it was an accident or part of the plan all along. And guess what? Stewart wasn't the only one tearing into the DNC for their sloppy act.
Let's go, Democrats! You know, the dumber your hat, the more energy you always have.
Michael Kosta didn't hold back. He fired a sharp jab at the DNC for their chaotic, tone-deaf preparation ahead of last year's convention. And honestly, he nailed it. It's almost fascinating how badly they missed the mark. Instead of channeling their efforts into crafting a powerful message or spotlighting their candidate's strengths, they wasted time making noise, shouting empty slogans into the void and leaning into awkward theatrics. They treated the convention like a stage show instead of a serious political rally. No clear direction, no real content, just one pointless distraction after another.
No one ever puts on a donkey hat and is like, you know what, let's stay in tonight. But of course Democrats are excited because this is a chance for them to lay out their specific vision each night, and let's hear what you got.
No surprise voters checked out. When style overshadows strategy, you're guaranteed to lose both the message and the election. And let's be real, half their so-called strategy looked more like a crash course in TikTok trends and celebrity drop-ins than a plan to tackle real problems. That's not outreach, that's political cosplay dressed up as relevance. Anyway, let's take a look at what the DNC actually rolled out for their rally last year.
New this morning, we are learning how each night of the convention will highlight her vision for the country. Tomorrow's opening night's theme, For the People. Tuesday will outline Democrats' bold vision for America's future. Wednesday, they're calling a fight for our freedoms.
The lineup looked incredible. Like the DNC was gearing up for a powerhouse convention, one that would unleash a bold, strategic vision to keep power and actually deliver for everyday Americans. Expectations soared. We braced for fiery speeches, real solutions, and a clear roadmap ahead. But what did we actually get? A full-blown circus of virtue signaling, hollow slogans, and shallow performances that barely even grazed the real issues.
Bold policy move by the Democrats. Tuesday is for the future, and Thursday is also for the future. How do you have themes that are so vague and then still run of ideas by Thursday?
Yep, that's the DNC in a nutshell. All style, zero substance. Every single time. Nothing solid, just layer after layer of theatrics covering an empty shell. The rally didn't feel like a political convention. It felt like a clumsy, low-budget variety show, complete with canned applause and painfully awkward messaging. They had everything lined up. The stage, the spotlight, the perfect moment, but instead of using it to inspire, lead, or propose real change, they wasted it chasing a good look. Optics took center stage, not outcomes, and voters weren't fooled for a second.
The Democrats also released a very detailed party platform, and you can tell how much time and energy they put into it because they forgot to replace Joe Biden's name with Kamala's. Yeah, and that's not just lazy, guys, it's risky.
The DNC isn't just a case of flashy performance without substance. They're lazy, disorganized, and downright careless. It's not only the hollow messaging that's the problem, it's the glaring little details that scream incompetence, like failing to update official platforms, still showing Joe Biden's name instead of Kamala Harris. That's not some harmless slip-up, that's political malpractice. It exposes a complete breakdown in preparation and basic attention to detail. If you can't even manage your own branding, how are voters supposed to believe you can run a country? It's amateur hour, and the fallout is happening right before our eyes. This isn't leadership, it's chaos in a suit.
Rumors are swirling, big time. Everybody's talking about it, that two of the biggest names in music, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, might make appearances.
Holy shit, did you hear that? A completely unsubstantiated rumor about Taylor Swift and Beyonce.
Sadly, the mainstream media weren't just passive observers. They were full-blown participants in the spectacle. Rather than holding the DNC accountable, they jumped on stage, parroting talking points and helping sell a polished illusion to the public. No pushback on contradictions, no challenge to the hollow rhetoric, just a coordinated effort to blur reality. Journalism gave way to narrative control. Facts were filtered, criticisms buried, inconvenient truths quietly erased. The media became a campaign extension, not a public watchdog, and in doing so, they shattered the trust that makes their role in a democracy essential. This wasn't just bias, it was full-blown complicity. In the end, the DNC's downfall wasn't just bad strategy, it was arrogance, laziness, and a desperate obsession with image over impact. With a complicit press, an empty candidate, and a tone-deaf message, they misjudged the public, and when flash replaces substance, the result is exactly what we witnessed, a brutal, entirely avoidable collapse. That wraps up today's video. If you liked what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe for more sharp, unfiltered breakdowns like this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.